Hey, I'm Alex Ratcliffe from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing Momiji from Deer Games. Momiji is a 1-to-4 player set collection game distributed by Japanime Games, in which players are trying to slowly build out sets of cards into the tableau to score as many points as possible. The way you're going to score points in the game is effectively the numbers you have. You can have a different number of suits depending on the number of players, and the numbers in the suits go from 0 up to 3, and you're going to score for the number of cards in each pile times the value of the highest card. So for example, if you have 6 cards in a pile, you're going to score 6 cards times the top card. If the top card is a 2, that's going to be 6 times 2 or 12 points. You're also going to have objective cards, objective tokens, which will score 10 or 3 points depending if you accomplish them. What you do on your turn in this game is you're going to do one of 3 things. The first thing you can do is you can take a set of cards from the center of the table. You can take one of these columns of cards. So for example, I can go ahead and grab these 2 ones over here. Before doing so, you can pay an acorn to the supply in order to refill the tableau with 4 cards. Alternatively, the tableau refills whenever it's empty on its own. So go ahead, 4 cards, add them to their respective piles, which might set the other player up with the right set of cards that they're trying to gather. The other thing you can do is you can play 1 or 2 cards to your display. You can play either 1 or 2 cards of the same type or 2 different cards. So for example, I can play this card over here, followed up by, let's say, a 1 immediately on top of it. That would be a valid play right there, 0 and a 1 of red. On my next turn, I can go ahead and follow that up with a 0 over here, and I don't have another 0, so I'm going to go ahead and add another 1 on top of it, which is actually not great because of this acorn matching over here. Basically, in the game, as you play cards, you can play cards either, you start with 0, and you can play either the same number or higher, and whenever you play 2 different cards in the same turn, 2 different cards as opposed to the 2 of the same color, you're going to go ahead and look at the acorns, and any pairs of acorns across your cards, you're going to score acorns for those pairs, which are both points in and of themselves, or can be used to refresh the display, or can be used to claim these objective tokens in the middle. So again, on your turn, you're doing one of 3 things. You're either selecting a bunch of cards in the middle, playing 1 or 2 cards to your tableau, or alternatively, paying acorns in order to gather one of these objective tokens. When you play cards to your tableau, what you're going to do is you're going to start off again from 0, working your way procedurally upwards, so you can follow 0 with another 0, or you can follow it with, for instance, with a 1. You can follow that with another 1. You can follow that with a 2, and then eventually a 3, and a 3 is going to close it off. You're going to take one of these tokens from the middle, which is going to close it off, and game end is triggered either when these tokens run out, and that's going to vary based on player count, or when the deck of cards run out. When the game end is triggered, players are going to have one more turn, and you can go ahead from there, scoring for both your objectives that you've scored, 3 or 10 points, depending on what you've accomplished, and then also for each of your sets of cards, you'll score, again, the number of cards, in this case 5, times the value of the top card, 3, that's going to be 15 points for this set of cards over here. That's basically the game. There's a few other things. You're going to have these ability cards. You're going to have these in play, so each player has the same set of 3 ability cards. There's a whole host of them in the game. You're going to choose 3 and then make sure everyone has the same things, and those give you ways to break the game, to possibly play a card that's skipping a level, to take, multiple rows of cards from the center at once, and those are going to be one-time use abilities that all the players have as they try to gather the right cards in order to place them down into your tableau, in order to score those points as fast and efficiently as possible. And that brings us to the review, starting off with ease of play. The game is fairly easy to learn. It's a basic, the rulebook itself is, maybe 5-6 pages. There's a short rulebook. The game is basically 3 actions as far as, what you can take: taking cards, playing cards, or alternatively taking an objective token. From there, it's a simple scoring mechanism. You're scoring both on the objective tokens, as well as based on the multiplier of the top card times the number of cards. And from there, it's all about the sequence of what you do. When you use your abilities, which cards you try to take from the tableau, when you refill the center tableau so you can get the right cards that work for your engine, when you're possibly denying the other player because you can see them that they're missing a 2 red, and they need that 2 red to jump to the 3, and you can go ahead and get that done there. The game is fairly easy to pick up, teach, and play. Plays fairly quickly. You can knock out a game of this in 15 minutes. The box says 30 minutes. I haven't had a game take me that long yet. This game moves fairly fast, which is arguably a good thing. It gives you a fast, quick-paced experience with a decent degree of, strategy as you try to figure your way through there. Which brings us through what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, which the game is a fast-moving, easy-to-teach, easy-to-play game that gives you a simple gameplay decisions with enough decision space, enough push your luck decision space as far as how you build things out. And there's effectively 2 ways you can try to play this game. Lots of small strategy within those, but the 2 primary ways is either trying to get as many points as possible by just having a ton of cards, or my personal favorite way, ramping up the end game when other players aren't prepared for it, because you can score, 3 times 4 for a simple 12 points, and they could have 7 cards while they try to get 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, and they have, 7 times 1, which is not nearly as high as 3 times 4. You can try to go for the right cards and ramp up the end game game and force players out before they're ready for it, while being mindful of your personal goals, your personal ability cards, as well as the center goals you're going to go for, which, by the way, vary each game. You're going to have a different distribution of what's used for the top versus what's used for the goals, and there's even more in the box as well. And so the game gives you those different ways to approach the engine, with both cutthroat strategy by forcing that endgame, or just simple, fast-paced, simple trying to gather the right cards and score as many points as possible, with a degree of variety between the abilities and the goals in play. As far as what I don't like in the game, there is variety in the goals, there is variety in the abilities, but the gameplay decision space isn't that large. There's mostly there's two ways to approach the game. There's that they're trying to get more, or alternatively trying to ramp up the end game, but there's not a ton of variety to the experience. This is the kind of game you dive into it 3-4, at least for myself, dive into it 4 or 5 times, and then I've kind of seen what the game has to offer. I enjoy the decision space, but it is overall on the lighter end, without giving me enough variety in terms of what I'm trying to do as I approach it to really keep me engaged for a long time. It's on the lighter side and a short-paced, fast-moving game, which, again, overall good things, but it doesn't hook my attention past those initial plays. For me, this is a little lighter than what I'm personally looking for. As far as I can see, others not liking that aspect that possibly is my favorite part of the game, that ramping up the endgame in a way that has the other players not prepared for that endgame, might make a light set collection game just not a fun experience for people at the table. If you're trying to build out a bunch of cards and you're having fun grabbing cards, placing your things, and suddenly someone says, by the way, I just triggered endgame, that doesn't leave for an overall good experience. To me, it's my favorite way of playing this game, trying to lean into seeing what other players are doing and trying to deny them points, but for a lighter game that might make your experience worse, so you do have to walk in knowing that. Secondly, I'd say that iconography is not great in this game. There's a lot of these abilities and icons, and for the most part, we found ourselves always referencing the rules whenever they have those, because if you play with a certain ability enough times, you'll pick it up, but for the most part, diving into new abilities, I had no clue what they were doing. Iconography is basically, I wish they had text printed on the cards. Right now, we've just been passing around that single rulebook so people can see what's going on. As far as final thoughts on Momiji, this is a fun game, but it caps out as a fun game for me. It's light, quick set collection, which there's a lot of games out there that do this, and this one, while I've enjoyed my plays of it, I haven't seen enough here that overly compels me to continue staying engaged with the puzzle. I like it, but I don't love it. It's a 3.5 out of 5. It definitely hooked me enough that I've enjoyed my plays with it, but it doesn't hook me enough that it's one I'm not going to be coming back to, or likely not coming back to anytime soon. As far as other game recommendations, first of all, there's Arboretum. If you're looking for a game that does a very similar thing, Arboretum, and I guess Sub-Astral as well, those are going to be my 2 recommendations. They both do very similar things as far as the set collection, with much more thinking space around how they approach them. Arboretum in particular can be incredibly engaging, although also leans heavily into that mean aspect. I think for myself, when it comes to this genre of quick moving, thinky, 15 to 30 minute card games, I tend to enjoy a little bit of cutthroat in them, because Arboretum and Sub-Astral definitely have that, and this is my favorite way to play this, but one that isn't necessarily the way you'll enjoy this game. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Ratcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this video helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.